Most people never think about their height. It's just there. The number you say when someone asks, the mirror you stand in front of every morning. Quiet, unquestioned. But your height is older than you think, older than your parents, older than the country you were born in. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to people who died thousands of years ago. People who never saw your face, people who never knew your name, but they made a choice about survival, about cold, about hunger, about staying alive one more day. And that choice became your bones, your spine, your body. You didn't choose your height, but someone did. And once you see why, you can't unsee it. Before we go deeper, if you want more stories like this, stories about who you really are, hit subscribe. You won't regret it. Before cities, before nations, before anyone wrote anything down, your ancestors lived in a world that didn't care about comfort. It cared about one thing: survival. Some of them lived where winter lasted 8 months, where snow buried the ground and cold bit through skin. Others lived where the sun burned overhead every single day, where heat rose from the earth like a living thing. And in those places, your body had to choose, tall or short, big or small, because in that world, every inch mattered, every ounce of weight mattered. Your height wasn't about beauty, it wasn't about strength, it was about energy, about heat, about whether you could make it through another season. And the people who made the right choice, they survived. The ones who didn't, they're not your ancestors. You're here because someone, somewhere, was exactly the right height to live. Here's what most people don't know. Your height is a map, not a map of where you were born, a map of where your ancestors survived. If your family came from Scandinavia, from Siberia, from the Andes peaks, you're probably tall, taller than average. Not because they ate better, not because they were stronger, because tall bodies hold heat. When you're tall, your surface area compared to your volume is smaller. That means less heat escapes. In a place where winter could kill you, where food was scarce and cold was constant, being tall kept you alive. But if your ancestors lived near the equator, in the Congo Basin, in the Mekong Delta, on islands where the sun never stopped, you're probably shorter. Not because they were weaker, because short bodies release heat faster. When you're short, more surface area relative to your mass means you cool down quicker. You don't overheat, you don't collapse, you survive. Your height isn't random. It's written in the climate your ancestors endured, the cold that tried to freeze them, the heat that tried to burn them. Every inch of you is a response to a world that doesn't exist anymore. But your body still remembers. Now here's the part that changes everything. Height costs energy. Every single day, if you're tall, your body needs more food, more water, more sleep. Your heart has to pump blood further. Your lungs have to work harder. Your cells burn through fuel faster just to keep you alive. In the modern world, that's fine. Food is everywhere. But 10,000 years ago, 20,000 food was the rarest thing on Earth. Hunger killed more people than anything else. Wars, disease, cold, none of it came close. And in a world where you might not eat for 3 days, for 5 days, being tall was a death sentence. Because your body couldn't wait. It needed fuel now. Shorter people had an advantage no one talks about. They needed less. Their bodies could stretch a single meal further. They could survive famine longer. They could keep going when taller people collapsed. That's why, in places where food was unstable, where droughts came without warning, where winters were brutal, shortness won, it wasn't weakness. It was efficiency and it was endurance. If you're short, you're carrying the genetics of people who outlasted hunger. People who survived when others couldn't. That's not something to apologize for. That's power. If this is making you see yourself differently, you're not alone. Subscribe to The Shadow's Mind for more. We dig into the truths no one talks about. But then something strange happened. Civilization flipped the rules. For most of human history, being short was often an advantage. Less food, less energy, more survival. But in the modern world, tall people win. Studies show taller people earn more money. They're more likely to be promoted, more likely to be seen as leaders. More attractive in the dating market, society decided that height equals power. And if you're short, you feel it, every day, in every room. But here's what no one tells you. That advantage, it comes with a cost. Tall people have higher rates of heart disease, higher rates of cancer. Their bodies wear out faster because they're working harder every moment of every day. On average, taller people die 1 to 2 years earlier than shorter people. You don't see it, society doesn't talk about it, but your body keeps the score. If you're tall, you're living in a world that rewards you, but your biology is still paying the price. If you're short, you're living in a world that underestimates you, but your body is built to last. The modern world forgot the rules of survival, but your ancestors didn't, and neither did your cells. Here's where it gets deeper. Your height isn't just about genes, it's about the womb you grew in. Scientists now know that 20 to 30% of your height is determined before you're even born, not by DNA, by environment. If your mother was stressed during pregnancy, if she didn't have enough food, if she was sick, your body made a prediction. It decided the world outside was dangerous, scarce, hostile, and it adjusted. It made you shorter than your genetic potential, because short bodies need less. They survive better in hard times. Your body was trying to protect you, but if your mother was healthy, well-fed, safe, your body predicted abundance. It made you taller. It stretched you toward your genetic ceiling. This isn't fair. It isn't something you chose, but it's real. Some people are shorter than their genes intended because their body thought the world was harsh. Some people are taller because their body thought the world was safe. You're not just inheriting height from your ancestors, you're inheriting your mother's experience of the world. Her fear, her safety, her body's guess about what kind of life you'd need to survive. That guess became your bones. And it doesn't stop there. Your height changes how you see the world, literally. If you're tall, you look down at most people. That's not metaphorical, that's physical. And psychology shows that looking down creates feelings of control, confidence, power. Your brain interprets your literal perspective as social status. If you're short, you look up. And looking up makes you more cautious, more aware, more attuned to threat. It's not weakness, it's vigilance. Tall people walk into rooms differently than short people. Not because they're braver, because their eyes are higher, their sightline is different. And the brain builds personality around perspectives that you didn't just inherit height. You inherited a way of seeing, a way of moving through space. If you're tall, you've spent your entire life with a visual advantage. You see over crowds, over obstacles. Your brain learned early that you have clearance. If you're short, you've spent your life navigating around things, finding gaps, reading rooms faster. Your brain learned early that awareness keeps you safe. Neither is better, neither is worse, but both are real. Your height isn't just a number, it's a lens, and that lens has been shaping your mind since you were a child. So why didn't evolution just pick one height and stick with it? Why didn't we all become the same size, the optimal size? Because there is no optimal size. The environment keeps changing. What works in the cold fails in the heat. What works in abundance fails in famine. Evolution doesn't choose perfection, it chooses survival, and survival has 1,000 faces. There's another reason too. The genes that control height also control other things: immune function, puberty, timing, lifespan, metabolism. You can't just dial up height without affecting everything else. Evolution isn't building a single body, so it's juggling trade-offs, and it keeps every option open. That why short people still exist, why tall people still exist, because the world might change again, the climate might shift, food might disappear, and when it does, the people who survive won't be the strongest, or the smartest, or the most beautiful. They'll be the ones whose bodies happen to fit the moment. Your height is a bet your ancestors made, and so far it's winning. But here's the part most people miss. Your height isn't a flaw, it's not something you failed at, it's not something that needs fixing. Your height is a vote cast by people who loved life enough to fight for it, to endure cold that cracked skin, to survive heat that dried rivers, to outlast hunger that hollowed bones. They didn't choose your height because it was pretty, they chose it because it worked. And because it worked, you're here. Every inch of you is a decision someone made to keep going, to push through one more winter, to birth one more child, to pass something forward. You look at yourself and see a number, a measurement, something society judges, but your body sees a story written in bone and blood, a story that stretches back so far you can't even imagine the beginning. And that story says one thing: you are enough. Not because you're tall, not because you're short, because you're alive. Because somewhere in the long chain of survival, someone who looked a little like you stood up, kept moving, refused to stop, and handed you this body, this height, this breath. Society will tell you your height matters, and in some shallow way, it does, but your body knows better. It knows height is just one chapter in a book that's been written for millennia. And every chapter is about the same thing: survival, endurance, life. You are not your height. You are what your height represents: the will to live, the refusal to disappear, the choice to continue. If you want more stories that make you see yourself differently, subscribe to The Shadow's Mind. We're just getting started, and trust me, you'll want to be here for what's next. So the next time you stand in front of a mirror, the next time someone asks how tall you are, remember this: you're not answering for yourself, you're answering for everyone who came before, everyone who survived so you could stand there. Your height is not random, it's not a mistake, it's not something you should have been able to choose. It's a map, a message, a memorial. You are the height that survived, and that's the only height that matters. Look at yourself again, not with judgment, not with shame, with respect, because you're not just you're everyone who refused to let the story end, and the story is still being written.